This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so we are recording this webinar. If you have to drop off earlier, if you know somebody else who might be interested in the topic, feel free to share this webinar with them. We will post it on our Young Professionals page on the SAME website. Before we get started with our webinar, I just wanted to, invite people to our monthly Young Professionals COI call that we have on the second Thursday of every month at noon Eastern. If you need login information, that's also found on our Young Professionals page on the SAMU website. We're also, we've also got a page on LinkedIn as well as Facebook. So please, reach out to anybody you know who might be interested in some of the things that we offer. The young professionals are pretty engaged, so we've got a lot going on, and we try to keep our website up to date in terms of what we're involved in. We also are kind of ramping up for Small Business Conference in November, so keep an eye out for the activities that we will be involved in as well, and come say hi if you are in attendance in person. All right, so this month's webinar is named Taming the Email Beast. Our speaker today is Darren Hale, who has worked at the University of Texas at Austin since 2017 after retiring from the Navy, where he served for 21 years. For the last 3 years, he's been the Director of Facility Services, where he leads over 700 members who clean, maintain facilities, as well as provide landscaping services and other facility services. He is a professional engineer and certified energy manager with a master's in civil engineering from UT and a bachelor's also in civil engineering and mathematics from Vanderbilt. Darren, thank you so much for joining us today. I'll let you take it from here.
Great, thank you very much, Elena. Appreciate the introduction. Very thankful to be here and be able to share my experience with emails and the struggle that is very real and continues to be real, and hopefully offer you guys a few tips. Ideally, some of you will jump on completely with the system that I talk about. Some of you will probably find some useful tips to enhance what you're already doing, but hopefully it's useful to everyone. So I'll start by introducing myself, or adding just a little bit of additional comments to what Elena already mentioned. I am here at UT, been here for 4 years, as she mentioned. I guess one thing I will add is that I'm really passionate about assisting transitioning military, especially enlisted folks, to join me in the higher education realm. And so that's, you may be wondering, why is this guy from UT talking about email with SAME folks? So I belong to an organization called APA, which is essentially the SAME for higher education, so the facilities education leaders. And so we partner with SAME to figure out ways that we can improve and offer opportunities for transitioning military to join higher education. There's a lot of folks who have come from the military into higher education throughout the country. So if you have any questions about that, or suggestions, or just anything about this presentation or anything else, there's my email. Eddie is going to send out the presentation afterwards, so you'll have my email to contact me in the future if you would like. So first, we're going to do a survey. The survey we're going to do via the chat box. So I want to get an idea of the audience that I'm talking to. So if you can type in A, B, or C into this chat box, whether you are military, government, civilian, or private industry, Elena and I are going to watch and get an idea of who we have. So I appreciate all the responses. We've got about 59 people online right now, and I'm seeing it. Well, it looks like a pretty good mix. What do you think, Elena?
Yeah, it's looking like a good mix of all three, which is nice.
Absolutely, that's great. Okay, if you have questions as we go along, feel free to to type them in the chat box. You can also unmute if you want to actually ask it.
Now I'm in a training call.
I'm flexible. I think someone is off mute though, so double check. Make sure you're on mute. All right, so I'm going to keep going. So I'll go about 45 minutes and then also have some time at the end for questions. Let me tell you a little bit about my email problem. About 8 or 9 years ago, I was in the Navy and getting about 100 emails a day. And honestly, email was a stress in my life, and it was often a metric for how in control I felt. And so as most of you that use Outlook know, in the bottom left-hand corner, you can find out how many emails you have in your inbox. And if I had less than 100 when I went home for the day, I felt like I had been productive. If for whatever reason I had more than 100 in my inbox, I felt like I wasn't. And so I would be stressed the rest of the night, sometimes not sleep well, come back in the morning and really try to dig in and get the number of emails that I had down to something more reasonable. But one of the other stressors was with so many emails, I wasn't always sure I was working on the most important thing. I would do work outside of email, more email would come in, and I had a little bit of FOMO, fear of missing out. Am I working on the most important email? Maybe something came in that's more important that I need to be working on instead of what I'm working on now. And I really used email as a to-do list. I would put flags of different colors to try to figure out what was the most important thing, what I needed to do today or tomorrow. And it just wasn't working out at all. And the other frustrating thing is people kept inserting things into my inbox, right? I'd get a new email. Now, what do I do with that email? Where do I put that in the priorities? And so I was constantly focusing, being distracted by email. And as many of you who have been in the Navy know that we get a lot of training, but I'd never received any kind of training on emails and providing a system, but yet this communication form that we use for many, many hours of the day. And so I was very thankful when I first heard about this system. And so the agenda that I'm going to discuss today, really 3 simple things. Organize, how to organize your email and use some of the tools that Outlook has for that. Processing emails succinctly, quickly, getting it done, and then to do. Right? We're actually paid to do things, not paid to process or organize our email inboxes, although it feels like sometimes we do a lot of that. And so basically the name of this system that I first heard about was called Inbox Zero. And it's the 3 things that I just talked about. It's action-based email. And so I'm going to walk through those 3 steps, focusing mostly on the first 2 that I feel like I've gotten pretty good at, the to-do part and organizing my to-do list. Still have a ways to go on that, I feel like, but I'll explain what I've learned so far, and hopefully it will be helpful to you. So this is just a reference page for when you look later, the Merlin Mann talk. That YouTube video is from 2006, so a little bit dated. But when I watched that in 2013, it revolutionized how I did email. I mean, that 1 hour, that one video, not to oversell it, really had the biggest impact on the way that I managed email, and maybe the way that I did my job and how productive I was processing emails and making sure that I was getting the most important things done. He's also got, Merlin Mann also has a 43 folders website, and then some of the things that we talk about will also be related to getting things done by David Allen. So first step, organize. Why is it important to have an organized inbox? Well, it does several things. One is it helps it makes sure that you're not multitasking. If you can have an organized inbox, you can do the most important things, focus on those things, and then move to the next thing. And also having an organized inbox, all emails are not created equal, right? The email from your boss is a lot different from the email from your peer, is a lot different than the email from someone random within the organization or a spam email that you get from different folks. And so but yet, if you have it set up so it's organized by date, then the most important email is the one at the top, and that just happens to be the one that came in the most recent. And so that's not the best way I've found to have your inbox organized so that you can be most effective. And so I've got another survey that I'll ask about Outlook rules. I had never heard of Outlook rules, but they are one way to make a way that you organize your inbox extremely effective. So the next survey question is about rules. A, if you have no rules set up. B, if you have at least one rule set up. C, if you've never even heard of rules. Looks like a lot of A's, a few B's, and an occasional C is what I'm seeing. Okay, great. So I will tell you about rules. This has been an extremely effective tool for me to organize my inbox. And you might be saying, where are rules? I don't even know where it is. Well, if you look at the top of Outlook, you'll see that there is a section called rules. And from the home tab, it'll show up and you can set up rules very easily. Like so many things in Outlook, you've got a step-by-step process to set up the rules. So I'm going to talk about a few of the rules that I've set up and how they help. So it really filters the emails. That most of the rules that I use filter emails. So when it comes in, you've got some rules. If it's to me, do this thing to it. If it's from a certain person, if it's got a certain subject line, there's a bunch of different ways to filter, and it helps you determine making sure that you get the email inbox organized. All right, so I'm going to go through how to set up a rule with something that's common. Like we get lots of emails, but some emails are to us and some emails were just copied. So I don't know if you were like me and you were just getting tons of emails you were copied on that people are like, oh, you get it and you're like, I don't really need to know that, or it's not urgent, because if you're copied on it, most of the time they're just like, oh, you probably need to know this, but you don't need to act on it or anything else. And so I would get copied on a lot of stuff. And sometimes I'd even ask myself, why am I even copied on this? I don't even understand. But what I do with copied emails is I stick them down at the bottom because I can process through those really quick at the end. And most of the time they're not very urgent. An important thing though, if you do this and you have people that work for you or that you work with, make sure that you tell the team that I organize my emails, and if you copy me on something, it goes to the bottom of my inbox. That way they'll know that if they want to make sure something is gets to the top of the inbox, they send it to you and they don't copy you on it. So the process that you go to the rules wizard, you just click on it, create a new rule, and you've got a bunch of different options. So for this particular one, Outlook knows that this is a problem for everyone, right? It's at the very top of the list where my name is not in the to-do box. So that's the condition that you're setting up in this rule. The email comes in, it's not to you. All right, well, the email knows, or Outlook knows, this email fit this condition. So step 2, down here, you edit the rule. So what do? I assign it to a copied category. And so there's way on Outlook that you categorize all your emails so that they can have different colors and they can be organized. And then I have an exception. So like it's for example, my boss is David Darling, his boss is Carol Bazell. If they copy me on something, that's important. It may not be to me, but it is from someone who's really important. So they're an exception to the rule and they don't get placed in the copied category. I've got another rule for them completely differently that I'll tell you in a minute. And so do those 2 steps, and then the next step, it says assign it to the category. I talked to it down here already. It goes into the copied category, and I'll talk about how I categorize here in just a minute. And then you go through the next step, and it tells you the exceptions, and then you pick people out of your from your email addresses, and then you put a name on it, where my name is in the CC box, and then you'll see that as the name of the rule when you get to when you look at managing all your rules. So after you set that up, you can see here are the 5 rules that I have right now whenever any email comes in. And what it allows me to do is I have basically 4 categories. I have what's called an A list, an A- list, anything that is to me, but not from anyone on the ARA minus list. And then if I'm copied on it. And so what that does is that allows me to have those people that I put on the A list, these certain people at the very top of my inbox at all times. And so by doing that, if I'm in a meeting for an hour or I only have like 5 minutes and I want to make sure that nothing's blown up at work, there's no floods in the gym or anything like that, I can check really quick just to see the emails from the most important people and check it, and then I'm done and I can go back to doing other things. Or if I've only got 2 minutes between meetings, just make sure that my boss hasn't sent me something urgent that I need to reply to. And so that's the A list. And why do I call it the A list? Well, because it's alphabetically at the top. When I organize my inbox, I sort by category, and then it automatically does it alphabetically. You could put like a star or something else like that on top, but I'd say A minus, and then the next group is if it's to me, and then the final group is anything that I'm copied on. And so I talked about the exceptions already, but this is what my inbox looked like a few years ago when I first did this presentation. You can see at the very top, Jeff Hoskins is one of my peers, but a fellow director that works in the financial group. And so if I get an email from him, it's important. I want it at the top. The next 2 emails are from HR. So not as important as the very top group, but I'm still interested. I want them sorted out from just anything that's randomly sent to me. The 2 emails below that, you can see one is from SAME, and then on top of that is just from someone random in the organization talking about additional duties pay that I cannot clearly wait till later to address. And then copied at the very end, I copy myself. I'll talk a little bit about more of this later. I copy myself on email so that I can create tasks. But like I said, I'll talk about that in a little bit. So a couple other filters. I just read in a article this weekend on the Wirecutter from the New York Times, and you can filter by anything. Like I don't typically filter by subject lines or content, but if you're getting spammed by a lot of different people and you don't have time to unsubscribe, if you filter by unsubscribe, you can take all of those people that have the unsubscribe at the bottom, either filter them, or you can create a rule to just put them in a different folder completely for you to look at a different time, which gets them out of your inbox as well. Another thing you could have is the keywords in a subject line. So maybe if you get a weekly report that's really important, you can put that in the A box or in the A category, or you can shift it somewhere else. Okay, so that is organizing the inbox. I just saw that we have a chat that came in. So is that also for blind copies? That's a great question. I'm trying to remember. If it is blind copy, it is not to me. So it'll show up in the very bottom category where my name is not in the 2. Since my name is not in the 2, it gets filtered all the way down to the copied section. Yep. One other exception, you've got to, you may have to make some adjustments based on some large distribution lists that you might be a part of internally. You may want to filter that, because I could get an email from our senior vice president that's not a personal email but a group email, but it's coming from his group email inbox, and so I may not see it, and it may get lost in the inbox if I'm not careful. All right, any other questions about organizing the inbox? All right, not seeing anything in chat. If you have any, feel free to enter those in chat, but that's how I organize my emails. So processing, that is the next step. Now that your email is organized, you want to process it. So what exactly is processing? As Merlin Mann would say, it's more than checking, less than responding. He has in his video, which I usually show in this presentation, but I couldn't get the audio to work well in this setting. But he basically says that it's more than checking. Like if someone asks you to check on their cat, then you go one day, you check on the cat, cat's fine. Go again, check on the cat, cat's fine. Go the third day, cat spontaneously explodes. Well, you don't just say, oh, well, that's interesting, and then you go back on Thursday to check on the cat. So processing is more than just checking. You've got to do something more than checking, but it's less than responding. if you're in a situation like I was a week ago Monday, I just been on vacation for a week and have a fantastic team that works for me. And I basically told them, if you need me, text me, because I'm not checking emails all week. And so I got a couple of texts on a couple different things. But when I came back, I had over 300 emails that in my inbox that I had to respond to. And that's with some filters that I had to get rid of some junk emails and stuff. And so, but I knew that I didn't have to respond to 300 in my emails. I just had to process 300 emails, which is very different and is also very freeing. And so the processing part answers the question of so what? So the processing habit, one of the things that I highly encourage folks to do is to do email less. Keep in mind, like most people do not expect you to answer an email within 10 minutes. If you're in a call center or somewhere else like that where someone sends something and you're expected to respond, obviously some of this doesn't apply, but most of your bosses or most of your peers or those people that you're supporting don't expect you to respond within 5 minutes. Most probably don't expect responses within an hour. I mean, I've told my team many times, email is not a form of urgent communication. If you need me, you can text me. If you need me, call me. Now Teams is prevalent, or Slack, or whatever that is. There's other ways to get a hold of me urgently. You know, if you send me an email, and unless you're my direct report or I work for you, I probably am not responding to it within half a day, and maybe not even for 24 hours. And so understanding that and making sure your team understands that is really important. But if, you know, obviously your boss may not be bought into that. Your boss may expect you to respond in an hour. That's okay, because you can set up your inbox so that his or her emails are always at the top. And then you can just pop over, let me check, make sure my boss, okay, good. I can go back and do something else for an hour on my to-do list instead of looking at emails. The trick is to just pop over and look without looking what else you're doing. And that is honestly my biggest problem is I'll be working on something that really doesn't interest me that much, but I know I have to do it. And so I'll kind of peek at the email and see if there's something more interesting on my email that distracts me and keeps me from doing the most important thing. A couple other things to help you from being distracted by emails: turn off the alerts on my phone, on my computer screen. I have no indicator when I get a new message. I don't have something that says you have messages waiting. I don't get a ding or a pop-up or anything like that, because all that does is it makes me want to look and do something else. And so I want to focus on what I'm working on, and then when I want to process emails, I process emails. And the last thing is minimize the window. Just get rid of it. Don't even have it open on one of your screens. Just get rid of it completely. And I talked a little bit about fiddling, which is a bad habit of mine where, like I said, I just may not want to work on what I'm working on, or I may want to feel productive for a minute. Like, oh man, this is really killing me. I'm just going to go over and process a few emails really quick, but just not as efficient and effective as I want to be in the long run. So really, what does processing mean? I've talked about it. So it's really 5 different things. These 5 steps, I'll go through each one of these and explain what I mean by these. These are from the Merlin Mann talk, not anything that I thought of originally. But one of the ways that I process emails quickly is through something called quick steps on Outlook. And so that's survey number 3, is quick steps. Similar to the rules. A is you have no quick steps set up. B, at least 1 quick step set up. C, I've never even heard of them. All right, Elena, what do you think the results are?
A lot more C's than anything else.
Yeah, that's what I was seeing too, which is great. So that's a tool you could possibly add to your toolbox. All right, so quick steps. Where are quick steps? They're right next to rules. Like I spent years and never even like looked at the top of what was going on in Outlook and some of the things that they have set up. So this allows you to automate your routine tasks. And there's lots of different things. I use it primarily for filing emails and for responding to a few emails, and then also are the two primary things that I do, and setting up tasks, which is the last part. Those three things. I encourage you to start slow and then expand as you get used to things. So I'm going to go through and what I'll talk about each of the 5 different processing steps, and then how you can use a quick step to enable you to get that quick step done. So in general, when you process, you're going to do 5 steps, and each one of those steps should take no longer than 2 minutes. Okay, so the first step is they call delete. I call archive because I save almost everything. But if you don't want to save everything, you can hit Control Delete to permanently delete something. But even permanent delete, you still have 30 days to reconsider. You can find those deleted emails. Now this next one, the second one, having what I call a current folder, this one blew my mind. And I will tell you that I was very hesitant. I used to have an elaborate system of like 100 different folders where I would file things. And what I found 2 things. One is I would spend a lot of time trying to figure out which folder to put it in. For example, when I was like a PWO, when I was a public works officer, so similar to this job now, I would get an email about flooding in a particular building. Well, do I put it in the flooding folder? Do I put it, and it was from Rec Sports, so it's do I put it in the client folder? Do I put it in emergencies? You know, and so I had all these different folders, so I was trying to decide which folder I'd find it in. And what I ended up finding out was that when I wanted to find that email when I was like, oh, I got that email, let me see if I can find it. I would look in, again, I would have to try to remember which one of these files did I actually put it in. And so I found I spent a lot more time either filing or trying to find where I filed it. But now Outlook has such a great search function. I put all my emails into one folder, and then I use the search bar to find it. And I have been able to find 99% of my emails, and certainly cut down on how I file and how long it takes me to file something, or how long it takes me to try to find something that I already filed. And so I was very hesitant. When I converted over, I copied my whole structure of file folders and had a separate PST before I converted over. But once I converted over, I never looked back. And it's extremely freeing to be able to file so quickly, and helps you just process a lot more quickly. Read the email, and then you can hit the quick step. And then the last thing, just so you know, I keep all sent emails. I think Merlin Mann recommends maybe not doing it, or just being thoughtful if you decide to do it. But I do keep all sent emails. So let me show you how the basic steps behind a quick step. So this I have as file, like I mentioned before, and all it does is 2 simple steps. I click on the quick step in the top part of the bar, and when I do that, it does 2 things. It moves the email to my current folder, which is basically where I store all my emails, and then it marks this as red, so you don't get that little parentheses in my current folder that shows I have unread emails. And that's it. And so I'll click that, and so I can process through a lot of emails, especially things that are, well, I'm copied on. I can just file, read it, file, and just keep clicking through. Sometimes though, I may not have the mouse, and so there is a shortcut key that you can add if you like using shortcuts instead of using your mouse. And so whatever shortcut you're going to do, you can use the shortcut key to set that up. So that is file. Second one is delegate. So a lot of times you get something like, oh, I need to delegate that to someone else. And one of the important things is that you actually track it to completion, which is one of the things that is important when you delegate a task. And so what I personally do is I will blind copy myself, and then I'll create a task for myself. And so there's so the quick step that I do for that is here. This is in your managing quick steps view. When you pull that down, here's where you could create a new quick step here, or you can review the quick steps that you have. So the actions that are taken when I click on the waiting for button, it does 5 things for me instantly. It marks the email as read. It creates a task with an attachment, which is where I do my to-do list. And then it moves it to my current folder. It first clears all the categories because a lot of times people send an email with a category. And then it categorizes it as waiting for, so that I can organize my to-do box, my to-do tasks in a efficient way. All right, so I did see a question in the chat. So if most is used in current folder, why not just leave an inbox and use the inbox as the current folder? And then major benefit of can easily see current emails on the main inbox screen on the smartphone. Yeah, so I hadn't thought of that as an option. I will tell you that one of the reasons that I personally would not do that is because after I process all to 0, there's just, for me, there's a very good feeling about like not having anything in my inbox. It's like 0. I look at it, it's empty. And so there's the refreshing feeling of having no emails in my inbox. But I guess you could do that if you only, after you read it, you made sure that you processed it. But that's, like I said, these are concepts. And so I want to take these concepts and make them work for you. All right, so next is responding to emails and doing emails. Very similar. Like I mentioned before, 2 minutes is the magic time in inbox 0. If you can respond to something in 2 minutes, do it. Take care of it, get rid of it. It's probably more time consuming to put it on your to-do list, prioritize it, go back, refresh your memory what it was. Just go and do it. And so one of the things that I did, especially early on when I adopted this, is I would use my cell phone and a 2-minute timer. And so when I was processing through emails, like, okay, I'm going to respond to this email. And so I'll just tell my phone to start a 2-minute timer. I was kind of careful. If I had said the magic words with Siri in 2 minutes, then the timer would have started. So 2-minute timer, just start it. And then you'd be surprised how fast 2 minutes go. You're like halfway through, I was halfway through the email, and then the timer goes off. It's like, oh, wow, that takes a lot longer than 2 minutes. And so can I finish it up real quick, or do I need to make a task? And so if the same thing, you can respond to that email, or if you need to do something, they're like, oh, go fill in your timesheet. Yeah, I can fill in my timesheet in 2 minutes. Boom, go and you do it. All right, but if it takes longer than 2 minutes, then I think oh, I'm sorry. So responding. What I'll do, a couple of quick steps for responding I have is thanks and file. I believe in responding to every email that I get, just to give that feedback to whoever sent it to me that I got it, especially if from my direct reports. If they send me something, hey, Darren, just want to let you know about this, to let them know that I got it, I'll just send them a quick thanks. And so you can set up a quick step so that it has the text in the message, thanks, Hookem. I work at UT, so it has to be Hookem. And then it replies to them, adds this, it moves that particular email to the current folder, and then it sends after a minute. So I can hit thanks and file, and if like, oh no, I really need to say something else, then I'll go back and add something to it. But and you're like, Darren, it only takes you like a minute to do that. Sometimes it's just, you're already up in that box and you're just clicking file and then thanks and file. But if you get it, so it's just quicker for me. And so, sometimes I find that I want to reply to an email. So when I want to reply to an email, same sort of step, I'll do the reply and file. And so that way I don't have to reply to the email and then go back and file it after I get done. I can just hit that quick step, reply to the email real quick, hit Control Enter to make it send automatically, and then I'm on to the next. All right, but if you, any more questions about quick steps to this point? I did see one that just popped up. What eventually happens to the emails in the current folder? At UT, we have files of, like we can store up to 100 gigabytes in our inbox. And so I've worked here for 4 years. I think I have 40 gig of email right now. So in my inbox. So for me, it's not a problem. If I had more limitations, I would probably sort by, move emails from the current folder into a secondary folder for by years. But because typically I found out I haven't gone back more than a year or two on most things, or if I know I need to go back a long time, I can go to that file. All right, thank you for the question. Last thing is defer. Defer means basically put it on your to-do list. It's going to take more than 2 minutes. It's going to take some thought. It's you can't just send a quick email and for the delegation, but it needs to go on your to-do list. And one of the things where I probably struggle most is this concept of scheduling, which I'll talk about in the do part. But all I know is I need to shift it from out of the inbox. And the beautiful thing about Inbox Zero is it just takes what you need to do out of your inbox. So you're working in your to-do list. You're not working out of your inbox, because if you're working out of your inbox and someone inserts another email, sends you another email, you need to now your inbox is, now your to-do list is people are inserting stuff into your to-do list. All right, so how do I create a task? Hopefully folks are somewhat aware of the task list that you have. These are the basic steps to create a task. Once a task is created, then I organize by different categories. If it's only going to take me 5 or 10 minutes, I can organize by 5 or 10 minute tasks. Greater than 10-minute tasks, I can have a different color or waiting on. And so eventually you create a bunch of tasks and then you start working in your to-do list. And so that's really the next step. We're actually getting things done. And I think I check on time. I think I'm getting pretty close to wrapping up. So I'm going to go pretty quick through this next part, so I'll have an opportunity for folks to ask questions. So this is, again, the part that I struggle with the most, but I'll create tasks. And so sometimes I'll put numbers in front of it so that it organizes alphabetically on my to-do list. You can organize by categories like I talked about before, something that a short task, 5 to 10 minutes, or something longer than 10 minutes. Then you can also, like I was telling you before, organize by subject, which is you can put numbers there, or ABC, however you want to tier your to-do list. You can schedule a due date, and then you can organize your to-do list by the date that it's due. You can set up a reminder. I would do this sometimes if it's really important and I didn't completely trust my system and I wanted to make sure that I was going to do it. I'd set a reminder so I get a pop-up and say, hey, don't forget to do this. And then you can also set a priority as another way to rank items. All right, so if you have the problem that I did where you were overbooked and not getting the right things done, this is what my calendar looked like. You could see a lot of different things going on. And then I would try to do my to-do list in the middle of this. But what I found to help out is that I would block my calendar so that I had specific times to do different things. Like if I needed to process my inbox, I will have block off sections on my calendar to process my email. Or if I knew there was a big project I needed to do or something that would take a lot of thought, I'd block out 30 minutes on my calendar. That way someone didn't try to insert a meeting or suggest a meeting time. And then, or if I had training, you can see that the HASCOM training here, I need to do that training. So I will schedule it so that I can just run my day more on my calendar and my to-do list than just working out of my inbox. And so I told you about the holds, and then the CAPA brief, was working on a brief for the central APA folks. And so I blocked it off. All right, so in summary, I do have a quick, I do see a question here. Do you also use the focused and other options available in Outlook? I don't know the focused and other options available in Outlook. Kelly, did you want to, I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot. Did you maybe want to share what that is for others? It's an automatic sort. Okay, I will have to check that out.
Hey, Darren, this is Mark Hanley. How are you?
Good, great to hear from you.
Great to see you again. I'm sure you used this filter on me when you and I worked together and put me in the bottom of that category. But hey, I would just offer that Microsoft Teams, MS Teams, has a function to periodically block time like that. I'm not sure where it connects into, but it's a game changer. I think that's probably one of the best tips that you've got here is to block them time to work some of yours. So, but these have all been great. I've been taking notes. I got to figure out the rules and the quick steps. They're really good.
Great. Well, thanks for the feedback.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. So it looks like it's a special part of Outlook, and not all Outlooks have it depending upon the version you have. So one of the beautiful things now is we can Google that and implement it. I'll have to look at that and see if I can implement that into future discussions. So in summary, I encourage you to organize your inbox using rules. That way you can look at emails that are most important. Just as a general, just so you know how I implement it, I will review my A list, so things from my direct reports or people I work for directly or other important individuals. I'll review those probably 3 to 6 times a day, just that one section, just to see if something came in. And then my goal is to process every email within 24 hours. Typically, I'll do a processing maybe in the morning, maybe in the afternoon, and maybe right before I head home for the day or leave my in-home office now. But with the goal of making sure that I get to those emails. If I had so many emails and I can't get to it, I typically will start from the day before in those categories and clear those emails out before I get to things that I received today. Another challenge, I'm processing emails, then all of a sudden, I keep getting, I mean, it takes me an hour because there's a lot, and then I keep getting more emails. And then sometimes then I need to decide, do I need to go back and process those or just let those sit for a while? So organizing the emails, making decisions about processing quick steps helps a lot. Personally, getting down to 0, or I don't often get to 0, but certainly getting below 5. Just being able to see every email on one screen is very satisfying to me. And then the to-do list, I still struggle with prioritizing and making the to-do list happen. That's the part that I think I still could use more help with, but the inbox I feel pretty good about right now. All right, let me go back, because I see some questions come in. Are there any emails you just never read? Well, that, you know, let me touch on something that I forgot to talk about that I usually do talk about is, or actually I think it's in the next one. So next slide, so let me just hold off on that. Are there any emails you just never read? I will actually go to the next slide here to show you some common excuses. There are very few emails that I don't at least look at the subject line on. There are some emails that you end up getting on different lists that as you go to some conferences and you get on things. And so there's some emails that I just will quickly go through. But there's typically no emails that I don't read at all. But some emails I only read for about 2 seconds. These slides will be available for download and use later. Eddie, can you remind me how people can find the slides in the future?
Yes, they're going to be posted in the Young Professionals webinar archive. So if you go to the Young Professional COI page, you'll see a link to the archive. I'll post the link in the chat.
Thank you very much. And then Matt's got a few suggestions. If you have focused in Outlook, it would be view and then show focused inbox, and then flagging an email shows up in Microsoft To Do, if that helps your to-do list. I did that for a while, and I think when I was in the Navy, I had to move an email from my actual server inbox to a PST file, and then when I moved it, then the email no longer showed up on my task list because it was in a PST file instead of my like server thing. So I'd forgotten about that. I'll have to try that, because then you could take it out of your current file, put a flag on it, and then it would show up in your to-do list. Great point. Thanks, Pat. So a couple excuses, maybe I shouldn't say excuses, reasons for not starting is you get too many, I get too many emails for me to get to zero. I think if you get that many emails, then you may want to, I struggle to believe you get that many important emails that you can't have a filtering process and a way to filter some emails and just get them out of your inbox automatically based upon content or who it's coming from. I do get this, too many emails in my inbox today. I get that on a regular basis. Darren, I got 2,000 emails. How can I possibly get down to zero? Well, I would suggest two different things. One suggestion is a little bit more rash than what I would completely recommend. But I had a friend who was a captain in the Navy. He was the deputy squadron commander for 4 different, or wing commander for 4 squadrons of helicopters. And he said, Darren, I struggle with email, but at the end of every week, every email I can't get to, I just delete. And then I figure if it's important enough for someone that they'll actually write me back. And then if they write me back, then I'll pay attention to it. So, well, that's certainly one way to handle email, not one that I feel comfortable. But the recommendation that I would make to you is just take your emails and just put them in all the emails you have in your inbox, put them in another folder. And then just set aside some times in your calendar to go through and process those at a time. I mean, theoretically, you should be able to process emails in less than 2 minutes per email. A lot of times, it's like 1 minute email, because if you're just using those quick steps or just don't want it. So, but if you can just, as Merlin Mann says, just stop sucking. Just get to a point where you can get to zero and maintain zero. Even if you've got 2,000 in this other inbox, you can maintain zero and keep up to all your emails right now, and then you get to those emails when you can. But again, for me, just having that email inbox at a low level was very helpful for me. I get important messages I have to respond to immediately. I get it. Figure out a way to sort them and put them at the top. That's what I encourage you to do. And manage my day from my Outlook inbox. Again, I personally, that didn't work for me because I always had because I got to-do list items. I had to do things that were not emails. So now I had emails, and then I had another to-do list. And so I had these 2 competing emails or to-do lists, which was really hard. Okay, and so another chat. One thing I did a while ago, which is a big help, I made rules for my newsletter subscriptions or automatically putting in a newsletter folder. Perfect. Yep. If there's a way that you can figure to filter items out, you can set up a rule. The rule will take those newsletters, or like I said before, if you put unsubscribe, that probably catches most of those newsletters, and you can put it in there. It's a quick click, the same as a quick step. I think it probably is. Let me show you on my Outlook where the quick steps are. So these are the quick steps up here that I was talking about. And so these are the different quick steps. So I'm not sure what a quick click is, but maybe these are the same things. Maybe they call it a different thing in more recent versions. All right, let me stop sharing. There we go. I don't think I've stopped sharing yet. Here we go. Still learning. Go to cancel maybe. I'm not sure. I can't figure out how to get the video up. Are there any other questions? I do see another one. There's also quick parts, which is different but helpful for repetitive template use. Great point. So you can also, if you send an email, a weekly email update in the quick steps, you can create a template in the quick steps to be able to use use common emails that you send on a regular basis. And so that might also be quick parts. This is great. I really love the participation in the suggestions. All right, what other questions from folks?
Darren, the one question that I had, I put in the chat, but back to your quick steps and your reply and file setup, is that different? If you've got, is that set up differently if you're replying to the sender versus reply all to everyone who's on email? Like, would you have to set up a separate quick step for reply all?
You do, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Typically, most of the time, if they've copied a bunch of people and I'm just telling someone thank you, I don't reply all to tell everybody thank you. But to your point, if several people contributed something and I wanted to thank everyone, then yeah, should be another quick step that you can set up for reply all.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Would it be rude to tell my coworker not to do that reply all to say received? Or acknowledge receipt. I'm not going to touch that one. That one looks hard. Yeah, I feel your pain, Jose. All right, we've got a convert with Judah. I see he is moving most of his inbox emails to current folder. That is awesome. That is awesome. Any other questions you might have before I turn it back over to Elena? You've got the link, you know where you can find this presentation. Eddie, is the chat going to be somewhere that I can get to? Because I want to make sure I capture some of these other great suggestions.
Yes, I can email you the chat, and we can also have it as a download since there was a lot of great comments that were submitted. So I'll add that as a download when we put the materials up on the webpage.
Yeah. Okay, so Chandler asked about naysayers against inbox zero, what people might say, why they might be naysayers. You know, I'm not sure. Yeah, I really have not seen a downside. For me, maybe some people are nervous about that current folder because there is that 1% or 0.5% of time where you can't find that email. Typically, I'm able to talk to someone else when I have those rare situations and say, hey, did you file that email that was this, that, and the other? Perhaps if you're there at one job for a long time and you have 10 years of emails in one folder, that might be hard. But to me, I don't know any real big downside to the zero inbox idea. All right. Well, I also want to thank the participants. I mean, you guys have been great. I think this is the 6th or 7th time that I've given this presentation at a variety of different forums, and I guess not surprisingly, the young professionals have a bunch of great suggestions on how to manage email better. So I'm looking forward to taking your suggestions and implementing those going forward. A couple more comments in there about a potential negative if they only back up your inbox, that's a challenge, because if you lose your computer or it crashes, then you lose all those emails. Voting buttons, that's a good suggestion on how to get quick responses without extra emails. Great point. Keep the email volume low if people are just needing to respond yes or no, or choose between 2 or 3 different things. Can we see your color coding system as an example? Sure. Let me. So that I think that you mean the color coding system regarding the categories. So when you do categories in your inbox, well, I don't want to show you my inbox. I don't know what's happened in the last hour. Let me find that. Here's a slide that I used. So the categories in the inbox that was here. The to-do list is a little bit harder. I don't think I have a visual of that, but it's just another way to another way to organize your to-do list. So, and again, this is where this is the hardest part for me, is the to-do list and getting it right. Whether you can make different categories for how long it's going to take. That way, when you're trying to insert 3 or 4 different tasks into a 30-minute block or an hour block, you'll know based upon how long you think it'll take you, so you can drag 3 things in there that you think will take you 5 to 10 minutes. That way you can get all those things done in the amount of time that you have. And then the waiting for is just for things that I'm waiting for from others. Typically, I'll put a time to follow up with them so that it shows up on my to-do list again.
So we've got a few minutes left to the hour. Darren, I wanted to thank you for your time and sharing your expertise on this. I think it's given everyone on this call some things to implement and look into, especially when we had some great participation in the chat as well, as you saw. For everyone on this call, Eddie has provided the link where you can find the slides and the video once we're done recording. And of course, Darren provided his contact information. If you have additional questions, you can follow up with him as well. We will also provide a PDH form on the SAME on our Young Professional page as well for anybody who needs that. I appreciate everyone attending. Again, if you know anybody who could find value in this topic, feel free to share the video recording with them as well. Yeah, thanks everyone. Great webinar. Thanks, Darren.
You're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate everyone. Have a great day.